Today we're going to be doing some sous vide. So we're going to set up this sirloin tipped roast. Now this is AAA, so we're in Canada, so this is equivalent to prime in the US. So it's a top grade of meat. My wife found a really good sale. What's showing on the label isn't actually what we paid. I think we saved about 25% on these. So I've already been doing a lot of cooking with this. Some of them I've cut into steaks, and we've had some great steaks. And I also did a really nice roast a few days ago, right after we got our sous vide machine. We did a 21-hour cook, and it came out absolutely amazing. So today we're gonna basically do the same thing, although I might do it at 22 hours because we've got a little extra time. But I can eat a little bit early. I only eat once a day. I try to stay fairly close to a schedule, but it's okay to be out a little bit. This is our sous vide machine. So I actually bought this used. So we paid I think $55 Canadian, and this retails for about 180 Canadian. So we got a pretty good deal, and it seems to work very well. So we'll show you how to set up and use this after we prepare our roast here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut this plastic wrapper. And I'm just going to pull this out of here vertically so that we leave the extra blood behind. We don't really need that. Okay. Get my hands off here a little bit. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is add some Himalayan salt, and then we're going to be adding some granulated garlic and also some fresh ground pepper. There'll be links in the description below where you can get the same Himalayan salt that I'm using. So look for those links in at the bottom of the description if you wanted to get yourself those products. So remember that when we're sous videing, you need more spice than you normally would because it's all going to be cooking inside the juices. So you need to have extra spice in there or extra seasoning. So we're just going to do a heavy coat of the Himalayan salt right on the roast. And we're going to make sure we do all sides. Now also remember, this is a big piece of meat, so it can certainly stand lots of seasoning. Make sure we don't miss any spots. We can get this knife out of the way, we don't really need that anymore. Okay, now we're gonna put our garlic on. Now I know it does seem like a lot, but that's kind of the rule of thumb when you're doing sous vide. You just need that extra spice or seasoning. Now because this roast came moist out of the bag, we didn't need to add any binder. Now I always like to use fresh ground pepper, and it's fairly coarse. Now, because I can't really grind and hold the roast in different positions, I can't really do all sides with fresh ground pepper, but that's okay. It gets enough, because the seasoning is going to spread quite a bit in amongst the juices. Okay, so I grabbed a little pat of butter here. Because top sirloin roast tends to not have a lot of fat in it, and of course we're carnivore, so we need more fat than usual. So I'm going to put a little butter in there. I usually like to use a bacon grease, but I used the last of it up with the steaks I did yesterday. So we're just going to use a small pat of butter. We don't want a ton in there or it pulls too much flavor out of the meat. So just enough to give a little fat in there. Now, we're not needing any fancy vacuum sealing. I know most of the sous vide stuff you see on YouTube, everybody's vacuum sealing everything, but you don't have to do that. Just a good Ziploc bag. It's recommended to use like a heavier bag, like actual Ziploc freezer bags or Glad freezer bags, something that's a nice quality. So just going to take that pat of butter, toss it in the bag, and then we're going to carefully slide that roast in there. Try not to hit the Ziploc part too much. So now we did get some on there, so we're just going to take a little damp cloth and we're just going to wipe the zip clean so that nothing prevents it from sealing properly. So just do this carefully. Okay, now we're going to seal this up. We're not going to seal it all the way. I'm going to leave a spot open at the end. And then we're going to do a human vacuum seal. So I'm just opening this up a little bit so I can get my mouth on that. We're just going to suck what air out of it we can, and it's plenty good enough. There we go. All right, so let me move this off to the side here. Do a little bit of quick cleanup. Yeah, unfortunately, when you're doing this, you're likely to make a mess. But we're doing real cooking here, so we're making real messes. All right, so I've already filled this pot with water. This is what we're using for sous vide. So basically, you can use any pot as long as the water level will cover. See, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but there's a minimum marking here and a maximum marking here. So you want the water level somewhere in between. So as long as you've got a pot that's deep enough for that, or like a hard plastic tub even, it's got to be like a hard plastic that can handle the heat without collapsing. Now I filled this with water as hot as it would get out of the tap, which in our apartment building is about 112 degrees Fahrenheit. So now if we look on here, you can see it's got a mechanism to grab onto the pot. So we just make sure there's enough clearance to get it over the lip. Just tighten this up. Now every one of these sous vide machines is going to have a little different way of setting the time and temperature and starting it up. So I'm not going to show you that because you just have to look it up for your model. So now that we've got it in the water, we're going to plug it in. Now I'm going to set the temperature. Unfortunately, my wife really doesn't like medium rare. She kind of prefers closer to well done or medium well, I guess. So we've kind of settled on a compromise of medium. So that's going to be 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're just going to set our temperature here. That's actually already at our 140. So now I'm going to set my time. Actually, I'm going to set this to a full 24 hours. And we'll start it going. Now on the top, it's giving me a temperature readout, what the actual water temperature is. So it's beginning to circulate the water, and it's going to warm it up, and it won't actually start the cook time until it reaches temperature. But we're going to take this, we can go ahead and put it in. And because we got enough air out of it, it's pretty much sinking to near the bottom, which is exactly what we want. So then our task afterwards, when this is all done, we could sear the outside. You know, we could break out a pan and crank it up to high and sear all the sides. Or you can cut the slices individually and sear them, make them almost like steaks. But the last time we did this, we found we just didn't really have a desire to do it. It looked great, tasted fantastic, didn't need to do any searing. So for a roast, I think you're fine to do that. Now if you've got a meat slicer, you could slice it up as deli meat if you so desire. But being that we're carnivores and we don't eat bread and that kind of thing, we just cut it as nice thick slabs. And I can also, now that I've made another batch of my fermented homemade butter Miracle Whip, I can use that as a condiment when we go to actually eat it tomorrow. So we'll, through the magic of YouTube, we'll bring you back in just a few seconds. So we'll see you in a bit. All right, it's the next day. And I actually added a little time just so that it worked out better for when we normally eat instead of having to reheat it later. So we actually cooked this for 28 hours. Let's take it the rest of the way here. So this time we're going to cut some nice sized steaks off of it, and we're going to add a little bit of spice, and we're going to sear them. So let's get started. Okay, so I've got a bowl here where I'm just going to collect our juices from the cook. Don't want to waste those. We got some nice au jus here. Now some people will dip their meat in it as they eat. I've been known to do that myself on occasion. It's really quite tasty. You can get all that juice out of there. Okay. Toast out there. Okay. Well, we should probably get the burner heating up here. All right, so I'm just going to cut this end off. That could be a little kind of a snack thing for later. So now we cook this at 140 degrees exactly. And you can see it comes out just that perfect doneness for a roast like this. I actually prefer it a little more rare. I like a medium, or a medium rare done at 135. But I don't mind this at all. So we're going to cut some nice big thick steaks. Now I actually just got this knife here the other day. We desperately needed a decent chef's knife. And this is the Zwilling knife. And when we first got it, it was incredibly sharp, and I really enjoyed using it. But this thing does not hold an edge worth a darn. So I'm actually kind of disappointed overall. So I have to keep touching it up already, and this is only like the third or fourth time I've used it for anything. So if you're gonna get a knife like this, you definitely want to make sure you have a kitchen steel handy. Okay, cut some a little bit thinner ones for Mrs. Fuzzy D. Oh boy, is this ever tender. It's just almost trying to fall apart as I'm cutting it with this rapidly dulling knife. Okay, so we're just going to, I think there was lots of salt on here, so I'm not going to add any more salt. If I need more, I can add it when I eat it. So we're just going to add some granulated garlic here. And some fresh ground pepper. We're only going to be searing this for about a minute on each side. Want to get that nice crust on there. We'll spice up the other side. Now I've got my burner. I probably can't see it on camera, but I've got my burner set on high. And I've got a nice thick bottom copper pan. If I had a larger cast iron pan, I'd be using that. And just another few seconds to go. Okay. Now, I don't know if you noticed there at the beginning, but I just had a little butter in the pan. Ran out of my baking grease. So now all that is searing on the other side. I'm going to add a little of this homemade fermented Miracle Whip analog made with butter instead of oil. And if you're interested in this, you'll find it. I've got the recipe on the website. I'll try and remember to leave a link in the description and up here somewhere as you're watching. Now this stuff tastes, it's got the consistency of cream cheese once it's in the fridge after it's fermented, and it tastes very much like Miracle Whip with a touch of cream cheese flavor to it. Now you have to be careful with this, it's very calorie dense, so try not to use too much of it. And that one's done. I think I'm going to need to add a little bit more fresh butter here. Oh. As you can see, we got a nice crust there. Just going to turn the burner off. We got that beautiful crust. Well, I hope you found this video and recipe useful. I've had this set up before, so I know it's extremely tender and tastes really good. So, future Dave here. I know I said I wasn't going to do the taste testing with you, and I'm kind of not really, but I just took a bite, and wow, it's even more tender than the one I did at 21 hours. So that extra 7 hours definitely made a difference. It just literally melts in my mouth. It's absolutely incredible. You have got to try this recipe. Okay, and I'll hand it back to Past Dave. Unlike other YouTubers, I guess you don't really need to see me chewing on this. So if you enjoyed our video today, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. And don't forget that notification bell so you don't miss the next recipes we come out with. Well, thank you for hanging out with us today. We appreciate you being here. See you on the next video. Bye for now.